Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We're going to be talking all about how to reach younger audiences. So whatever your mission is, you obviously want to be getting in front of Gen Z and Millennials, since that is going to be your prime audience in years to come. So we'll be talking all about some strategies for that, platforms to reach them, and some of the solutions that work really well for nonprofits when it comes to getting in front of those younger audiences. So I'll give everyone a couple minutes to join. In the meantime, if you could drop in what you're currently doing to reach younger donors. So let's get a little chat going. Type it in here so it's easy to see. Welcome anyone who's just joining. Want to kind of get a little conversation going before we dive into the content today, kind of see what everyone's currently doing to reach young people. Are you on TikTok? Are you doing YouTube Shorts? Are you trying video content? Just drop some ideas in the chat so we can kind of, oh, okay. Let me try to put the question in again. I think I only sent it to Rachel, who's on the back end with me. Yeah. Cool. You should all be able to see it now. Okay, just getting started with video content, social ads, good stuff. Okay, yeah, doing more with Reels. I know that's a big one. TikTok and Reels seem to be very popular with Gen Z and Millennials, and I know there's a lot of overlap in the content. I see a lot of the same things on TikTok that I see on Reels, so it's kind of a kill two birds with one stone. If you're doing both, you can repurpose a lot of the stuff that you're working on for another platform, so that's great. Posting a TikTok and Reels, okay, yep. Live events with music that features younger performers, cool. Bill, what kind of organization are you? Is it a music organization or are the live events just something you do as a fundraiser? I love that. Love to start with TikTok. Okay, yep. I included a few resources on the last slide. We'll be sending the deck out at the end, and I included a few resources, one of which is about how to get started on TikTok as a nonprofit. So there's they have a fundraising side to the platform that kind of helps nonprofits get a little leg up on the competition. Okay, yeah, I'm seeing a lot of social media, a lot of short form video content, community focused events like trivia. That's really fun, Cami. Love that. Okay, yeah, using popular and trending sounds. That's a big thing. That's something I think I'll mention later on when giving some tips on video content, is just to kind of follow the trends that are working on the given platform that you're working with. Okay, let's see. We're also working with the local brewery chain to host happy hours, wristband fundraising. Love it. Who doesn't love to drink to a good cause? Alrighty, cool. This is all great stuff. I love to see that everyone is trying some different things. And, we're going to cover a lot of ground on today's webinar, but I'm hoping that you all leave today inspired to try at least one new thing. So, we might cover some things that you're already doing and some things that you aren't doing. And so I'm hoping that you'll come away with some kind of action item that you feel is an easy thing to get started with. So let's dive in. I'm Isa Hasty. I'm the Senior Content Marketing Manager here at Feather. I included my email here in case you want to reach out to me. I'm always happy to hear from nonprofits. If you have any topics that you'd like us to cover in future webinars, hit me up and let me know. I'd love to hear from you. And so what is Feather? So we are trusted by more than 1,500 nonprofits of all shapes and sizes. So human and child services orgs, animal rescue orgs, health-related nonprofits, arts and culture museums, all that good stuff. And what does Feather do? So Feather helps nonprofits grow in a nutshell. And this can look like lots of different things depending on what type of nonprofit you are and what your goals look like. But for example, a local YMCA was able to bring in thousands of new donors, potential donors, and program participants by putting the right ads in front of the right people using Feather. And so growth can mean more awareness, just getting in front of the right people, which is one of the big things we're going to be talking about today. Oh, my cat is joining us. Love when he does this. And this organization was able to grow their events and bring in tons more attendee registrations with digital ads using Feather. And then Palmetto Community Care is an HIV and AIDS service organization. They were able to not only drive more attendees to a big annual fundraiser that they host called Charleston Beer Fest, but they also get in front of lots of people who are able to have access to their clinics and their services through ads. And so this, for them, it's more ticket sales, bigger impact, more awareness. And then the Christian Relief Foundation uses digital ads through Feather to bring in donations. So this past end of year campaign, they were able to bring in $107,000 in donations through Feather, and they were able to deliver clean water to developing countries through these donations. So lots of good stuff. So whatever your goals look like, we hope that Feather can help you get in front of the right people and stay in front of them, keep them engaged, and drive those conversions that you're looking for. So yeah, let's quickly cover the agenda. What are we going to be talking about today? We'll be diving into sort of the new landscape of giving when it comes to why you need to reach younger people, why it's more difficult. And then we'll talk about some tactics for securing younger donors, what that looks like. So from, specific strategies, messaging tips, the platforms you want to be on, video content creation tips, and then going beyond donations. So not only expecting people to become donors, but to offer other options for people to participate, other ways for them to get involved with your cause that don't necessarily just involve giving money right up front. And then I will get into some resources at the end that you can take home and do with what you will. Okay, so before we dive into the content, I just want to plug a couple of things. So next Thursday, we're going to be hosting a panel discussion about the government budget changes. So I'm sure a lot of you are feeling uncomfortable and uncertain with all of the recent changes. And so if you're looking for ways to sort of, assess how the impact, the impact of the funding freezes on your organization, if you're looking for strategies to reduce reliance on government contracts in general and find other ways to create that financial resilience for your organization, this is going to be a great conversation to tune in for. So I'm going to have Rachel drop a poll if she hasn't yet. There we go. Thank you, Rachel. If you would like us, if you want to just skip the step and we'll register you directly for this, just drop a yes and we will get that on your calendar for you. So it should be a really good one. Yeah, I see lots of people saying yes. This is a very hot topic, and Debbie's great. She has a lot of insight into what's happening with everything in the nonprofit world, and she's a fundraising consultant, so she works with hundreds of nonprofits and knows her stuff. So it's going to be a great conversation, and yeah, looking forward to seeing a lot of you there. So yeah, just look out in your inbox for that. You'll get a confirmation email. Okay, cool. All right, and one more quick thing. So we are running our 2025 State of Nonprofit Marketing Survey. So some of you may have taken this before. We run it every year, and we turn this into a State of Nonprofit Marketing report that sort of delves into what's working, what's not working for nonprofits. And so we would love to get your input. I just wanted to include this. Oh, your pop-up went away. Okay, Larry, well, we've got your name down here. So if the pop-up went away and you want to register, we've got the chat, so we can make sure to pull your name and register you. That works. So yeah, this survey is trying to get a sense of just what's working, what's not. So I'd love to have as many of you as possible give your input. And we will be turning it into a report that we'll release in March. And then if you do fill out the survey, you'll get early access to the report, as well as be entered into a drawing to win one of 10 $250 Amazon gift cards. So who doesn't love a little money? So go ahead and take the poll. Your insights as a nonprofit organization are super valuable, and they'll help shape the report into something better. So yes, okay, thank you, Rachel, for dropping that in there. So there's the link for you all to take it after this at your leisure. All right, cool. Let's dive into today's content. So the new landscape of giving, what does this actually look like? So millennials have surpassed baby boomers as the largest generation in the US, and Gen Z is close behind. I'm sure all of you are acutely aware of this. But as you can see from the graph, which is actually sort of preliminary results from the survey that we're running, so this is not fully baked, but we have more than 350 respondents. So I think this is a pretty good indication of what's happening in the space. And you can see that the overwhelming majority of supporters are older people. And a few nonprofits, reported that Gen Z or millennials are their biggest supporters, but you can clearly see that Gen X and baby boomers are holding down the fort for nonprofits. So I think the challenge here is that, young people have a high level of desire for change, but they're also a little more jaded about their ability to impact things. They're more limited financially. And so charities and nonprofits need to understand how to engage in ways that will resonate with younger audiences. So one thing that stood out, we haven't fully dug into the data, like I said, because the survey is still open, but one thing that stood out when I was looking at the segments that said that millennials and Gen Z were their biggest supporters, one of the ones that said millennials is a children's museum. So I was thinking, okay, that's obviously, a lot of millennials have young kids. They might be taking them to the museum. So it's sort of like they have they're built to appeal to younger audiences. Some organizations just have that built in. Or if you're like an animal shelter or something, there will always be people looking to adopt pets, always be like young people looking to adopt pets. But if you rely heavily on individual donors as a main source of funding, and your biggest supporter base is these older people, especially baby boomers, you need to find ways to sort of shift your focus to those younger generations in order to have a sustainable business model. So this means finding them where they are online, targeting them based on what they're actually interested in. So kind of finding your people, finding your community, and then honing in on that, and then keeping them engaged. And also potentially changing the way that you actually position yourself as an organization if that's necessary. And so I'll get into some specific examples of what that can look like later on in terms of just reframing your mission when that's necessary. But let's first look real quick just to kind of get on the same page about how we're defining millennials and Gen Z and sort of what they're looking for when it comes to social media engagement, online engagement, and participating with nonprofits. So Millennial Matt, let's consider him as our sort of prototype here. He's 36 years old, but the range from millennials is anywhere between 28 and 43 years old. He spends roughly 6.5 hours online daily. So obviously spending a lot of time online, that's where you need to be reaching people. Primarily browses on a smartphone, but will often make purchases on a laptop. And so I find as a millennial myself, I run into this a lot. I'll kind of be researching things, but then when it comes to actually buying a plane ticket or making a donation or something like that, I don't know what it is, the bigger screen or feeling more control or something, but I do make a lot of actual purchases on my laptop, but I am getting more used to making the purchases on mobile. So definitely need to move in that direction in terms of making your site and your content mobile friendly for millennials. Millennials are big fans of Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn and Twitter. Yeah, glad to see my fellow millennials in the chat saying they do that too. It's so funny. I think it's just like that's what we did for so long, and now we can do so much stuff on our phones, but it's like when you're making an investment or paying for something, it feels more official to do it on a larger screen or you can see more things all at once. But anyway, glad there's solidarity there. Okay, and then millennials prefer long form content, so you can get a little bit more detailed in like your videos, podcasts, things like this. And then, yeah, I love that. Feeds your impulses better. I am definitely known to impulse buy as well, so I do tend to do that on my phone more. Good point. And then millennials are more likely to convert through traditional online ads and social media marketing, so a little bit more susceptible to those traditional advertising practices, much more so than Gen Z. So let's get into that. Here's Gen Z Gina with her beautiful red hair. Let's say she's 23 years old, but that range can be anywhere from 12 to 27. So obviously, very young, and you might want to be reaching those younger kids to get them aware of your cause if that's, relevant. But yeah, this can go up to late 20s. They spend even more time online, so 10.6 hours daily, twice as likely as Matt to make an online purchase via mobile. So I think those on the cusp millennials and below are definitely doing most of their purchasing online via mobile. So using video-based platforms is a big thing. So Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, TikTok are huge platforms. So I know some of you in the beginning said that you're getting into TikTok, and so I know that that's a big one that I've seen a lot of nonprofits kind of venturing into, and so it can be a little daunting, I think, but it's a great place to sort of easily create video content. It's straight to the point, quick, easy to consume, and so that's one of the perks of promoting your work on a place like TikTok. And then likely to make a purchase or convert via TikTok or Instagram. So this kind of comes back to that, not really trusting the ads or the sort of typical advertising practices that they're seeing, and being a little bit more likely to convert because they saw a peer recommend something or an influencer that they trust. So you want to definitely be connecting with influencers in your space if you can, but also we'll get into some ideas for ways to leverage the people that you have on board at your organization. So younger volunteers, young beneficiaries, those kind of heartfelt or genuine stories, if you're featuring them, can be really impactful on TikTok and on other social media platforms, because young people like to see other young people genuinely promoting something. So that's an easy way to appeal to Gen Z. And then, yeah, like I said, rejects traditional advertising, so more likely to convert through these sort of more authentic, a little bit scrappy, like less polished, sort of more real pieces of content. So what do Matt and Gina have in common? I think this is important because a lot of the time, this is sort of the big group that you're trying to appeal to, but you might also not have the resources or time to be very sort of pinpointed in Gen Z versus millennial and what you're doing. And so you might want to just kind of understand what they have in common, what are you up against, and creating a strategy that might appeal to both as much as possible. So both of these generations have less money to give than previous generations, both in terms of, previous generations when they were at this age had more money to give. And obviously now these older generations just have more money to give than young generations do now, just because of where they are in life. So there's a lot of reasons why younger generations are just not in a place to donate $20 all the time when you ask for it. So there's going to be a lot more apprehensiveness around giving money. Less trust in institutions and partisan politicking. So this is a big one. Young people tend to be more concerned nowadays with structural and systemic issues like sustainability, equity, community impact, representation, things like this. And so this is a lot of, including those things in your messaging can be really impactful. And so, like I said, we'll get into some reframing examples, and I include some examples specifically about bringing those concepts into your marketing if you are not already doing that. A lot of young people prefer to give locally or to orgs that they feel personally connected with. So this is a big one. Like we said, adept at online giving and purchasing. So you want to be mobile friendly as possible. Video content is huge. And then I think a really interesting point is that younger people place equal value on all of their assets. So this is time, money, social networks, leadership skills, ideas, things like this. So at the end, I'm going to propose a few different ideas for actually connecting with universities and university students to kind of bring them in different ways, if that's something that you are interested in looking into, because I think there's a lot that young people can bring to the table besides just following you on social and maybe donating $5, So there's so much more that your nonprofit needs to do in terms of leveling up and using these assets and these skills that young people bring. And they bring perspective too. So you want to bring them into the fold as much as possible, because young people know how to reach young people and understand, because that's whatever they're looking at and whatever's resonating with them is what they will be able to bring to your content and your strategy. So include young people wherever possible. Okay, cool. Let's talk about some specific tactics to secure younger donors and supporters. So first of all, don't shy away from trying new things. You really can't. You kind of have to just keep moving forward and trying new things and going with the flow and get on TikTok, do whatever it is that you feel like you need to do to reach these people. And don't feel, it can feel daunting, I think, but just ease into it, test things. You can start slow. You don't have to put a ton of budget behind something new if you're not sure yet, but A/B testing is a huge piece. Asking for direct feedback from your audience can be big for figuring out what's working and what's not. So donor surveys can be a great way to understand how people actually feel about your cause, and having insight into your audience's perspective, sort of their perceptions, their needs, their preferences, that'll give you information on how to better market to them, because then you can just do more of what they're telling you they want from you, right? So maybe some of your donors feel that your updates are too vague. So then you want to get more specific or transparent with your impact stories. Or, maybe they feel like behind the scenes stories are really effective, or beneficiary testimonials are what they want to see more of, so that you can feature more of those. So yeah, this is a great way to just kind of get that real firsthand, first-party data on what's working for your audience and what's not, and do more of what's working. And then I think accepting that not everyone will become a donor is important. So like I said, you want to offer other opportunities for people to offer their skills, get involved, and support your cause. But yeah, not everyone is going to become a donor. So don't consider your efforts failures if not everyone is converting to a donor. So kind of go easy on yourself, try things, A/B test, segment your audience. Someone who has volunteered with you 5 times should be seeing something different than someone who has never heard of your organization before and they're clicking on an ad for the first time. So make sure you have the right tools and yeah, segmentation practices in place so that you are speaking directly to each sort of cohort or segment and yeah, responding to what they actually are interested in and what they want, what they're doing on your website, things like this. Okay, so optimizing your website, you want to make it mobile friendly. This is key. It can take less than a second for a new visitor to form an opinion about you, and 94% of first impressions are design and UX related. So that feels like a really low-hanging fruit. Like if your website is not up to par, you want to start there. Young people especially are judgy of this because they grew up in a, digital first world. And so if it's not easy within 1 second, that could be it for your nonprofit. So you want to make sure everything is good to go from a mobile friendly standpoint and, test out your donation flow yourself. Go on different devices, go on an iPad, go on your mobile phone, desktop, all of these things, and just test out different flows. So go from your homepage to your donate page and go through the process of making a donation. Click on some of the ads that you're running. If you're browsing on your own personal social page and you see an ad for your organization there, click on it and see what happens, right? Maybe ask if you have a kid of a friend or something who could test something out for you. Like literally ask a 14-year-old to test your donation flow and see what they have to say, So yeah, and then when it comes to optimizing for mobile, prioritize your donate page. That is your highest impact page. It's a critical point of conversion and it directly impacts your fundraising efforts. So you want to make sure you start there and then you can kind of move on to other high impact pages, homepage, things like that. But I'd say if you are going to focus on one first, definitely make it the high impact page that you are sending people to from ads and emails. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about messaging tactics, because I think that this can be a huge piece, even if you're reaching people in the right place and you're trying TikTok, trying video content, if you're not saying things that resonate with the values that young people have, it just won't work. So let's get into some of those tactics. But first of all, asking for smaller donations can be an easy way to make things more accessible. So maybe ask for $5 as a default instead of 15. And then make sure your ask is consistent across platforms. So if you are serving ads to people saying donate $5 to help feed a family, you should lead them to a page that has $5 as the default amount in the dropdown. So don't say donate $5 and then send them to a donate page that's asking for 20, right? So that's pretty intuitive, but just make sure that that's all aligned to make it, easy. And that also just kind of builds trust and credibility. And then match storytelling with hard facts. So some examples here, $25 feeds a family for a week. 1 in 4 women is a victim of domestic violence. So young people respond really well to facts, statistics, kind of real life proof that you are doing what you're saying you're doing and that that the money that they might give is actually going to a cause and having a real world impact in terms of numbers. So wherever you have numbers, that's great. Emotional storytelling has its place, but you don't only want to do that. So a couple of really good impact statements that I wanted to just highlight here. This one is from the Innocence Project. So this is a landing page. You can obviously scroll down and see more numbers here, but this kind of just shows the impact that they had with one of their campaigns here. So just highlighting some numbers and yeah, this is just sort of a simple landing page that lays out the results of this campaign. And then this is a really great one. I like how it's just kind of clean and simple. This is Team C's. So it's a campaign that Mr. Beast, who's a YouTube content creator, paired up with an ocean conservancy project, and they were able to raise a ton of money and clean out trash from the ocean. And so I think the visual is great. It's just really, really easy to sort of see the impact. They created some other videos highlighting different, more details and like more numbers from the campaign, but this was just kind of a great, I think, visual to show the impact. And then this is from that same campaign, but I really love this as just a reminder to get creative with how you're framing your ask. So for this campaign, every dollar sort of equated to 1 less pound of trash in the ocean. So obviously they made that work somehow, on their end, but it made it just really easy, I think, for people to see, okay, I'd rather remove 20 pounds of trash from the ocean than 5, so I'll give 20 instead of $5. So if you can kind of find cool ways like this to frame your ask, I think it can go a long way. So, if you're a food bank, maybe instead of asking for them to donate a number of dollars, ask how many families they'd like to help feed this week. Or, if you're an animal shelter, ask how many kittens would you like to help spay or neuter this month, things like that. So just kind of rethinking what you're asking and figuring out ways to, yeah, just get kind of playful with the messaging and yeah. Alrighty, let's get into some of those examples of reframing your sort of mission and your organization to appeal to younger people. So as I'm going through these, feel free to drop in the chat if you've done anything like this. I'm going to go through three specific examples. These are kind of hypothetical, but hopefully, I'm sure we have some of these organization types on the call. Hopefully they resonate. But if you've found anything that works for you in terms of sort of rephrasing or reframing something about your mission, or maybe it's a CTA that works really well for young people, drop those in the chat because I'd love to see what everyone else is finding works. Yes, Nicole, we will send the slides out after this and the recording as well. Sarah, let's see. We use a lot of evidence and hard facts and infographics. An autism nonprofit. Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah, visuals go a long way. And infographics also perform really well with younger people. So I think anything that's just really easy to consume quickly, that has numbers, facts, and is visually appealing, if you can combine all of those, it's like the perfect combo. And the specific money calls saying that $20 buys sports equipment for, okay, cool. Yeah, love it. Cool. So yeah, this example is, a historical preservation nonprofit. So traditionally, I think organizations like this can tend to position themselves around an idea of protecting the past or preserving history for future generations. And while that messaging might resonate with older donors who kind of value heritage or value continuity, it can feel distant or even unrelatable to younger people, especially Gen Z and millennials who are more focused on equity, representation, community impact, issues like this. And so just a few examples of how you might reframe some of the language, that might be used by an organization like this. So you might go from something like preserving history to reclaiming and amplifying untold stories. Saving historic sites, you might change that to something like revitalizing spaces for community impact. And then protecting the past, you'd change that this is something like shaping the future with lessons from the past. So kind of incorporating the values that younger people hold dear while also still representing what your organization does. And, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of organizations actually have had to change sort of the nature of what they do over time to meet different needs. And so that might be something that you're constantly thinking about anyway. Like, are we actually delivering the services that people need? Are we speaking to donors in ways that actually resonate with what's going on culturally, politically? And so I know that these are questions that you probably are thinking about all the time, but sort of translating that into what are you saying in your messaging? How can you tweak the messaging? Even if it's just 5 words that you use all the time, how can you come up with a new version of that that's going to resonate better with young people and just kind of touch on the things that matter most to them? Let's see here. Yeah, that's a great question about, not positioning yourselves as the hero. So that's a huge one. You want to be sort of donor-centric, supporter-centric in your language always. And so I actually have a graph that I've used on previous webinars. I'll include that in the deck when I send it out, and so you'll get that, but it's kind of like a side-by-side comparison of donor-centric language versus organization-centric language, kind of focusing on what you need to do to keep the focus on your audience versus your organization. So things like, we help, let me see the example that you have here. You work with youth. So, instead of, and you might already kind of be doing this, but instead of saying like, we help, young kids succeed with whatever, we provide services to, youth in need, you would want to put the emphasis on what the person can do to help. And so, help young kids in your community get access to ... or provide such and such for the youth in your community. So kind of placing the emphasis of the CTA and of the language on the thing that the donor can actually do, and the impact that it would have. So combining all of that into a CTA or ad copy is the way to go. So I don't know if that really helped answer your question, but I think the table that I'll send out in this deck after will be good because there's more specific examples, but just kind of, yeah, taking the focus away from you, because obviously you're thinking about how much money you want to bring in, what you're going to do with it, why it matters, but that's not what these people are thinking, right? People are thinking like, do I have time to click through and do this right now? Do I have the money to donate? Do I care about this cause? And so you want to be always thinking about their perspective and leading with that in your messaging. Let me see. Okay. Yeah, Jed, that's an interesting question. I don't actually have an answer to that exact question, but I will say that um, younger people are more accustomed to like subscription models and kind of recurring purchases. And so that is a thing that I've seen work, particularly for millennials. I know that a lot of millennials, I even have some friends who give like recurring monthly donations to an organization they care about. And so I do know that the yeah, some young people are sort of more willing to give smaller amounts on a regular basis, but a lot of Gen Zers are one-time givers, and so kind of learning how to retain donors, and donor retention is obviously a huge challenge in general, but learning how to retain those younger donors so that they stay with you for the long haul is the goal. Okay, cool. I'm gonna leave some of these for the end because I don't want to get too caught up here, but let's go on to the next example, and then I'll come back to the questions when we have some time at the end. So this second example of reframing is a conservation nonprofit. So a lot of organizations like this position themselves around preserving natural spaces, protecting forests, oceans, wildlife. And while that message does have broad appeal and that is what these organizations are doing, it can sometimes feel a little abstract or disconnected from the everyday concerns of younger people, especially Gen Z. Gen Z is super motivated by issues around climate change, climate justice, equity, activism, things like this. So if you can bring those concepts into your marketing, you will resonate better. So some examples here of how you could change language. So going from protecting the environment to fighting for environmental justice, preserving nature, you might change that to defending communities from climate disaster. So kind of bringing in the community impact, representation, protecting people who don't have access to resources. And then saving wildlife, you might change this to protecting biodiversity for our future. So really, like you're often saying the same thing, but just saying it with words that are sort of hot button words that will stand out for people and appeal to their values. We need your donations. You might change this to something like join the movement for a greener, fairer future. So there's endless possibilities here. You can get really creative. So definitely have fun with it, but think about some ways that you can, yeah, reframe your messaging in your language. All right, this says example one, but I meant three. So the third one is a food bank here. So, I think traditional messaging for food banks can kind of be around feeding the hungry. And this is obviously, again, this is what they're doing. This is the mission. But framing it that way can sometimes feel very charity driven and reactive instead of systemic and empowering for communities. And so younger generations tend to be engaged again by these structural issues, systemic issues like income inequality, food deserts, sustainability, things like that, rather than just short-term relief efforts, right? And so instead of talking about hunger as a problem that can be solved with donations, $5, a food bank could actually reframe itself as a movement for food justice or community empowerment or sustainable access to nutritious food for all. So some examples here, some specific examples, you might change ending hunger to fighting for food justice and equity. Providing free meals, you might change it to empowering communities with sustainable food solutions. And we need your help could be join the movement for a more equitable food system. So yeah, just some examples here, but hopefully some of this kind of got your wheels spinning a little bit about what you might do with your own. Let's see. That's a good question, Cody. I think definitely, like I said, you want to be segmenting your audience and reaching people on different platforms and reaching people with different messaging depending on what what speaks to them. And so you definitely want to be hitting those younger people with messaging like this. It's an interesting question because I would be curious. I think this is something you could test. Like it could be that something like fighting for food justice and equity actually really resonates with Gen Xers too, you know? So I think that's an excellent question and would be a cool thing to just A/B test. You can A/B test ad copy, CTAs, subject lines, things like that. So I would say try that out. Like if you have the sort of like two different versions of your copy and you want to see what works, just do a simple A/B test and see what open rates or click-through rates are like when you serve this sort of more updated language to older populations. Because yeah, it could be that baby boomers are always going to want to see things like providing free meals, ending hunger. Like this is what they've always seen and this is what's familiar. That's the language they associate with a food bank. They understand it, therefore they'll give money. But yeah, it's worth testing for sure. And it doesn't mean that you can't do different versions of this for those older generations too. So I think what I'm encouraging is to think about this in the context of reaching younger people, but also just think about the language you're using. Like, is it the best possible version of a tagline or a CTA that you have, or can you kind of get creative and switch things up? So always play around with that, always be testing. All right, so let's talk a little bit about meeting. So some of the campaign types you can run to actually get in front of people and grow awareness. And so meeting younger audiences where they are, so building trust, building that trust that you need to build with younger people starts with getting in front of them in the first place and building awareness. So geofencing is a great way to do this. Geofencing lets you serve ads to people on their mobile devices based on where they are, like a physical location, or if they were at that physical location in the past, you can serve ads to them today. And so some ways to reach younger people would just be sort of thinking about specific locations where young people spend time and geofencing those locations and serving them ads. So college campuses would be an obvious one. Schools, so you could reach older kids if you're trying to, reach high schoolers with your mission. This could be a good one. You're going to be able to reach millennial parents of younger children if you geofence schools. Sporting events, shopping centers, people might have a little bit more disposable income if they're doing leisurely activities. So that's a great sort of way to think about it. And also you might find, young kids go to malls to hang out and walk around and be away from their parents. So that can be a great way to, reach people, reach young people when they're sort of, on their phones and maybe have a little money in their pockets. So this is an example of geofencing a mall. This is from United Way of Asheville and Buncombe County. They're a Feather user, and so they ran these. It was a Giving Tuesday book drive a couple of years ago. And so you can see here what the heat map looks like, but they were targeting specific locations in the Asheville area. And I think this was a mall and maybe some other shopping centers nearby. And they were asking them to donate books to the holiday book drive. So yeah. And then I think an important note about these types of awareness campaigns is that you usually want to educate people first and not just lead with a big ask. And so, there's some exceptions like around Giving Tuesday or end of year, you might drive more urgency with your ads to new people. Like people are expecting to see donate now at end of year. And so you might run an awareness campaign and just kind of be driving people to donate if it's around a time of year where that makes sense. But for people who are just discovering you need to establish trust. And so the ads with the direct appeals can come in later in your retargeting campaigns, after someone has clicked through on one of your ads or found you through organic search, click through to your site, okay, they're interested, then you can hit them with a little bit more of a, an ask, a direct ask, because they've indicated interest. But yeah, you want to ease into asking for money and kind of just put yourself on the radar of young people first, build trust, share impact stories, share testimonial videos, have young people speak to them, and it'll feel like a peer-to-peer kind of thing and establish that trust. Also, the best of both worlds could be, an awareness ad where you're not saying donate now, you might say learn more, but you could have the ad lead to a page where it's easy to make a donation. And maybe a lot of you are doing this already. I think I've seen this on a lot of nonprofits' websites, but you hit learn more, but then you're taken to a landing page that has information about the cause, maybe some impact stories and a video, but then there's also a clear option to give on that page. So I think that's kind of the marriage of those two things. You don't want to throw a big ask in a new person's face, but you also want to ask them. So, okay. And then targeting young audiences that are looking for causes like yours. So talk a little bit about search-based targeting. So search-based retargeting, we call it keyword search and Feather. For any Feather users on here, that's what you'll know it as. But search-based retargeting lets you serve display ads as people browse the web based on terms that they've searched for. So this is different than Google Ads, which is the sponsored search results that show up at the top of the Google page while you're searching for something. So that's Google Ads. That's also great. Google Ad Grant is amazing for nonprofits. If you're not using it, look into it. It's $20,000 a month for free for your nonprofit to run ads. It's free money for you, so definitely check it out, see if you're eligible, and look into signing up. In the state of nonprofit marketing survey that we're running, I saw so far, in the respondents, a lot of people either don't know it's an option or don't know how to get started. So definitely look into Google Ad Grant for nonprofits. And you can run that alongside search-based retargeting because you're sort of already putting in the work to identify the list of keywords, and then you can use those same keywords for both campaign types. So showing up while people are searching on the Google page, and then also following them around with those relevant ads. after they've searched for the terms. And then building strong organic SEO is important. So like I said, Google Ad Grant is great. Google Ads is an important place to show up, but younger people are less trusting of sponsored ads in search results. So you don't want to not do it because you will reach older generations. And so I click on sponsored ads sometimes on the Google search page. I know that I'm clicking on a sponsored ad, but sometimes it is the most helpful, thing that I'm seeing on the page. And so I'll click on it. But sort of taking it more with a grain of salt. So you definitely want to focus on building up a strong organic presence in addition to doing paid ads. And I have a resource included on the last slide about how to get started with SEO and sort of ramp that up if you want some tips there. And then you want to continually build on the awareness that you are creating with these campaign types. So nurturing people through email and retargeting campaigns. And younger demographics do have lower open rates than older people, but they are still actively engaged with email. I mean, we all check our email all the time. I have push notifications for my personal email inbox. So like we all are seeing emails coming through. So it is a good place to still reach young people. Continue telling them your story, educating them, showing them the impact of, their participation. If they make a donation, show them what it did. If not, still encourage them to share your cause on social media with their friends, things like that. And sharing volunteer experiences can be another really good one because usually volunteers are, enthusiastic and eager and want to help your organization. And they're there for a good time. And so I think it's, kind of a cool opportunity to get some video content, some testimonials from volunteers about the impact that you're having in the community. And again, I'll repeat this forever, making those direct appeals after you've built trust. So you want to kind of build on the awareness, build trust over time, build credibility before you are asking people to give large amounts of money. Okay, and then a few other strategies to consider. Gift matching campaigns convert at much higher rates. So 84% of donors are more likely to give with a gift matching campaign, and 1 in 3 may give a larger gift. So think about, how this can go a long way with younger donors who might only have $5 to give or $7 to give. They might be more inclined to give that than not give if they know it'll be doubled, So I know when I see a gift match campaign, I'm immediately, it's not hard, but like you're doing the math and thinking, hey, wow, like it's not 10, it's 20, it's not 20, it's 40. And so anytime if you have access to a generous donor who can match gifts or a corporate sponsor who can match gifts, this is really something to lean into, and it could go a long way with younger donors who just, feel like they can't really make an impact with the money that they have to give. But if you can double it or triple it or whatever, that can be a huge help. And then asking donors to give smaller amounts on a recurring basis. So like I said earlier, Gen Z and millennials are accustomed to subscription models. We have, there's Lululemon, Netflix, HBO, like all of these things that we're used to paying on a regular basis each month. And so I think that can be an interesting way to position giving as well, if that seems like something that would work for your model. And then these are just included a couple of ad examples here. These are from the Food Bank of Northern Nevada, another Feather user, and these are a couple of ads that she promoted to her audience. This was a gift match campaign, and then I think this was another one from the same food bank. And I like this one as well because I think it incorporates a lot of the ideas we were talking about with the language around community impact and food inequality. So this is good ad copy for sure. So I wanted to highlight that. Okay, let's go back here. All right, a little bit about social media. So you want to run a combined approach of, paid and organic social media. And if you can't target by generation, like I said before, it can be hard to have the resources or the time to get really specific. So you want to try, if you're doing sort of a general social media strategy, try focusing on that cusp range. So 18 to 34 years old. Everybody in this range loves more instant gratification, so offering clear messaging that delivers impact and value up front as easily and consumably as possible. Leveraging the platforms that they both use is key as well. So Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook are all kind of big in this age range. And then Facebook also has some fundraising tools that you should check out, see if you're eligible. So the link is in here. Once I send out the deck, you'll be able to click through and see if you can apply for that. But they just kind of make it easier to do fundraising on Facebook. For example, on your Facebook, your company Facebook page, you can have a donate button directly on there. so that people can donate on the Facebook page without leaving Facebook and having to go to your site. So just sort of things that make it easy and user-friendly for people to give to your cause without disrupting their daily activities. Alrighty. So if you are trying to sort of break down how you're approaching social media by these two generations, here are some tips for that. So social media marketing for millennials, this is an easier generation to market to in general. But here are some specifics about, where to reach them. So they are on the most prominent social networks, which makes it, kind of just easier to, like, you're probably already on Facebook, YouTube, a lot of these platforms and more familiar with them. So that kind of is an easier starting point. Millennials prefer to consume multiple forms of content. So this kind of gives you a little bit more range of motion with, trying videos, podcasts, longer form things like blog articles. And millennials are old enough to make purchasing decisions. And so as we saw with Gen Z, the 27-year-olds can make purchasing decisions, but the 14 and 15-year-olds probably are still depending on mom and dad. And so less money to give there. And so millennials are great to market to in that way because that they have money. It's just a matter of getting them to care enough to give. And then slightly longer attention span than Gen Z. So that kind of goes without saying, but yeah, you can get them to read content, read longer content, spend a little bit more time consuming video content, things like that. So focus on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram for millennials and test out, different content formats to see what works. And then for Gen Z, you want to make content that cuts straight to the chase, impact statements, statistics, success stories, things like this. Focus on that shorter form video content and make sure everything's optimized for mobile, obviously. Zone in on those niche platforms if you can. So Instagram and YouTube are millennial friendly as well. So those can be a good starting point if you want to kind of hit that cusp again. But TikTok and Snapchat are both heavily used by Gen Z. So if you're brave enough to do that, go for it because that can be super impactful. And then leveraging influencers in your space. So if you are able to find someone in your space that has a relevant, highly engaged audience, the trust that that influencer has with their audience is going to just go a long way if they're able to sort of partner with you and represent you. So definitely just, be on the lookout for people, even if they're micro influencers. They don't have to be Mr. Beast from YouTube. It can be anyone who has a following who, cares about your cause or relevant causes. They might be willing to partner with you. So there's other resources that you can find that help with like understanding, what you can offer in exchange and things like that. There's lots of different opportunities there to partner up with micro influencers. So definitely try leveraging that if you can. And then some quick tips on creating video content for younger generations. So you want to prioritize short form video content, keep it under 60 seconds if possible. Avoid long intros, kind of jump right into the content. Use captions for accessibility. A lot of people watch videos on mute. I find myself watching videos on mute all the time, even in my home. I'm like, why is this on mute? But somehow I like start watching it and then that's how I'm watching the video and I don't turn it on the volume. So obviously people watch things on mute if they're on the train or in, a public place, but I do it even in my home. So a lot of people are watching things on mute, always have captions. Tell real stories. So highlight individuals that are impacted by your work. Incorporate user-generated content, so testimonials, volunteer experiences, like we said before. Feature young voices that are speaking directly to your audience and show behind the scenes moments. So for young people, authenticity is more important than perfection. So you don't have to have that perfect polished video every time. It could be just literally grabbing your phone and filming something that's happening in the food bank or the warehouse or, at the shelter, things like that. An animal shelter, obviously, there is sensitivity around certain causes and you can't always show the behind the scenes depending on what your work looks like. And so obviously, keeping in mind that this doesn't work for everybody. And a lot of the time your beneficiaries are going to want privacy and you can't share everything, but wherever possible, I think this sort of more authentic glimpse into what's happening behind the scenes can be very impactful. And then following platform trends, I know I saw a couple of people at the beginning say that they're using like TikTok sounds that are trending and things like that. So that's a great way to, grab attention and sort of it's an easy way to sort of, if you can't think of something, just pick the latest trend and create a video for that. So I actually have a few friends who have business accounts on the side for, like I have a dermatology PA friend who has an Instagram account and she's just literally constantly doing these trending sounds and she just like whips up videos real quick in her office with whatever the latest TikTok trend is and shares it. And they're great, super entertaining. it's kind of a low lift because you don't have to like get too creative with, coming up with a concept. You just do what's already working. And they can be very catchy and fun. So definitely recommend that. And then optimizing for each platform. So TikTok and Reels, you want to be trend driven, quick cuts, keep it casual in terms of tone. And then for YouTube Shorts, which are another one that are kind of growing in popularity, those can be more informative and slightly more polished, but still fast paced and still kind of to the point. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some of these ideas for going beyond donations to offer opportunities for young people to engage with your cause besides just giving money. So one thing that you can do is partner with institutions and universities to offer these opportunities to university students. And so working with faculty, these are just some examples. There's more where this came from, but also drop in the chat if you're doing anything like this or have done anything like this. But working with faculty to integrate hands-on projects into coursework, providing you could try to work with an institution to establish some kind of credit earning internships for students in marketing, fundraising, research, program development. So relevant majors and relevant fields. You might want to bring some of those young minds who are, learning all the like newest, latest, and greatest trends in marketing and program development, bring those ideas and those insights into the work that you're doing and offer them something in exchange. You can partner with, honor societies, student clubs, Greek life to organize volunteer days. I know that's a big thing because those groups are already organizing volunteer days. So get your nonprofit in front of them and have them come help you out. Encouraging student clubs to run P2P fundraising efforts, and then organizing hackathons. So that's a bit of a bigger lift, but I wanted to include it because I think it's a fun one. So competitions where students can maybe develop tech or marketing solutions for your organization. And then just pairing students with nonprofit staff for mentorship. So if you're able to kind of formulate form a relationship with a university and provide value through mentorship, and then also, you can potentially sort of bring those people, those students on later on, or just kind of put your nonprofit on their radar and then provide value for them so that they can hopefully provide value for organizations like yours longer term. I just want to check here. We've partnered with capstone classes to do a collaborative project as their client. So we get free work and the students get coursework. Yep, love that. That's exactly what I'm talking about here. We've done communications audit with a local university as students project for that semester, done interviews for student papers, brought on student interns. Yeah, amazing. If you guys don't mind dropping in, like, do you have any tips for like how to initiate those types of partnerships? Anything that you found worked in terms of like reaching out to universities, proposing this type of thing? Like, did they propose it to you? Did you propose it to them? I'd love a little bit more detail around. Okay, you connected with a professor, yeah. Yeah, I guess a lot of these things probably happen on like a sort of a one-to-one basis. You meet someone and you kind of get connected through their proposing to student clubs. Yeah, cool. Yeah, there's usually, some admin people in the student clubs who are looking for opportunities to facilitate things like this. So finding out who is in leadership at these student clubs or who to connect with in, fraternities and sororities, they're huge with volunteer days. So in college was an entrepreneur class I took, and that was the project was creating marketing budgets for different nonprofits and businesses. It seemed like everyone had a sort of connection to the professor and she proposed it to them. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of it is word of mouth and personal connections, but find the department head for the programs you want to interact with, for example, social work. Okay, yep. And you should be able to find department heads online. So just do your research and figure out. And usually, you might email the wrong person at first, but hopefully you can be connected with the person who is able to give you the information for setting up something like this. Yeah, for internships, and that's something that, some have reached out to us wanting to volunteer. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm sure this is one of many things that you're balancing, so it's on the to-do list. But yeah, wherever you can get, yeah, it's like where you can get free help from students is great, but then also delivering value to them in some way with like the promise of, like potentially a job at your organization or just the real world experience of working with a nonprofit, credits, things like this can be a great sort of tit for tat. Yeah, I'd love to hear. Elena asked, is anyone having options for high schoolers who are interested in these opportunities? If anyone has any experience with that, please drop some ideas in the chat. Love to hear it. Okay, I think this is our last slide. Okay, cool. So one thing that I want to sort of end on is not just sort of having young people in your staff, not just having young volunteers. You want to have young people in positions of decision-making power. So an important part of understanding how to appeal to younger generations is having young voices in those leadership positions. And so this is easier said than done. But, if you have young people making decisions about where to put budget, they're probably going to understand that you need to put more budget behind digital, more budget behind paid ads, social. Direct mail works for older generations. It can work to a degree when combined with mobile campaigns and QR codes and things for younger people, but young people just don't open mail at the rate that older people do. And so a lot of nonprofits are putting tons of budget into direct mail, and that's budget that could be going a real long way if you were using it for other types of channels where young people are spending their time online, on mobile devices, on social media. But just a couple of little tidbits here. So less than 30% of 501c3 board trustees are under 30. So I'm sure we're all familiar with what the average boardroom looks like, and it is not representative of a whole lot of things and definitely not representative of very young people. So diverse perspective helps always with problem solving, especially when it comes to, young people understand what young people want. And so they're going to have natural instincts about messaging, social media strategy. And so obviously having young people in the weeds, in the work, doing this type of work on your staff is important, but having them in positions where they can make decisions and offer insight in a way that will really move the needle is key. So yeah, and young people are obviously tech savvy. They can onboard new platforms and support just the expansion of your network in a way that some of your older board members just might not be aware of or know how to do. And then some ways to find younger trustees. So just a few suggestions here. Your local chamber of commerce might have a young professionals group that you could connect with. Graduate school. So again, connecting with institutions and universities, you might connect with a graduate school at a university nearby to look for some potential younger trustees who might want to come on and advise. Younger teachers at local schools, and then associations like AFP can help connect you with nonprofit professionals of a variety of ages as well. So just some food for thought, but bringing young people into as many different layers of the work and yeah, is the way to go. Okay, so I included, like I said, this quick slide at the end with some resources to kind of get you started. So hopefully this is helpful. We'll send the slide deck out and the recording tomorrow morning, so keep an eye out in your inbox for that, and you can click through all of this. There's tons of links in here. Check out the TikTok article here, and then the Facebook fundraising hub for nonprofits as well. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining today.